So, among all the new and shiny that came from the NSO overhaul, there was a collection of weapons that got some pretty impactful changes for either better or for worse. How much so? Well, that's what we're going to be discussing in today's video. G'day there once again viewers, this is your mate Kamikaze78 here, and today guys, we're going to be placing the Saber-13, NSX Daimyo, and Beetlejuice 54A under the microscope to work out where they sit after their most recent balance passes. So firstly, I just want to get this question out of the way because it's been coming up a lot lately in the comments section down below. Where are the weapon reviews for the new NS Gear Cami? You know, you're one of the weapon reviews guys in the Planetside community. You should be frothing at the mouth for this stuff. Where are the videos? And all I can say to that guys, for now, is that it's coming soon. As you guys know, I like to get pretty deep into stats in those videos. I like to discuss recoil patterns, I like to talk about first shot multipliers, aiming down sights movement multipliers, as well as damage over ranges, that sort of stuff. And right now, the API that provides those stats is a little inaccessible at the moment. It's practically broken, which means that I'm unable to create those videos to the extent in which I want to. As soon as that is sorted, we will get cracking on those new weapon reviews. But beforehand, there are a bunch of weapons that were changed in the integration update that I want to spend some time looking at because they were either major changes or they were weapons that got changed because they found themselves in the spotlight of a balancing conversation, normally a controversial one. And I do want to start off the video swinging here because, well, the first weapon in question is one that's always been one of the most controversial additions to the game. Yes, I'm of course talking about the NSX Daimyo. How many of y'all were expecting me to say the Beetlejuice there? But no, the NSX Daimyo has always been a weapon that has felt a little... what's the word I'm looking for? Broken. That's it. The weapon has always been a little broken, especially in the hands of a crack shot that was under every performance-enhancing drug under the sun. For the uninitiated out there, it's a semi-automatic sniper rifle with, quite frankly, a piss-poor body shot damage by comparison to your other sniper rifles out there. It sports 325 damage at 10 meters before dropping off to 285 damage at the 350 meter mark. But its ace in the hole is its headshot multiplier of a whopping 3.5 times, which gives it the ability to score one-shot headshots at pretty much all ranges that matter. Sure, you're not going to be one-tapping people at 350 meters, but in saying that, it's not really where the weapon was designed to excel at the first place. It was essentially an alternative to the core CQC bolt-action rifles that were already in the game, the TSAR-42, the SASR, and the Ghost. But because it lacked the need to bolt after every shot, you were able to very easily chain up to 4 headshot kills very quickly if you knew how to aim. And yeah, it wasn't hard to find the crack snipers of the game quickly adopting this weapon for some prime farming opportunities. Throw in the fact that it also sported a faster reload against its traditional sniper brothers that hadn't gotten the memo that bolts were suddenly so 2012. Yeah, the weapon was simply cracked in the right hands. So, how is it now since it's been whacked by the Nerf bat? Well, it's certainly not got the same old click heads easy farming machine mentality that it used to. It got hit with a halved refire time, which means it went from 333 milliseconds refire time to 667 milliseconds for a refire, as well as a first shot multiplier nerf from 1 times to 2.66 times, which I'm sure you've all noticed in the footage of this video. The weapon kicks like a cat heading back to the vet because, hang on, this is the place where the strange man prodded me with the sharp shit, and man, like said cat, it takes a long time for the weapon to regain its composure. Between the two changes, yes, the weapon does still have a faster quote-unquote effective rate of fire over the other snipers, but the recoil makes it incredibly difficult to spam those shots now. The Daimyo definitely takes a little more precision to use now. You aren't going to be missing a shot or landing a body shot per se, only to immediately correct it with a follow-up. I mean, the refire time alone is slower than some of the time to kills of the more aggressive weapons in the game, which means that the only time you should piss off a player with this thing is if you're sure he's got to go back to the spawn room before he can try and retaliate. But believe it or not everything in this video is going to be copying the Nerf bat. Enter the Saber-13, one of the Terran Republic's unique burst-fire assault rifles that has always filled the role of being the heavy hitter rifle of the bunch. Now, as I've said time and time again, this rifle has always been very dear to me. I've always enjoyed its design, and I've always considered it to be a really reliable option to take if you're just in the mood to let the weapon handle bursting for yourself. But because it dropped 2 whole damage tiers down to a minimum of 125 pre-buff, it did struggle with consistency at longer ranges. and it was an easy weapon to avoid at said ranges if you were on the receiving end thanks to its lacking damage. But now, the weapon sports a minimum damage of 143, meaning that the damage drop-off is now a whole lot more consistent over those extended ranges. While it isn't a buff that completely changes how the weapon plays or makes it godlike, it does make it just feel that little bit more consistent over the ranges where it's meant to be used, and I do know how much we gamers love consistency in our weapons. Definitely worth taking for a run now should you have a TR combat medic looking for something new to try. But okay, we now finally find ourselves arriving at the weapon that everyone in this video has been waiting for me to talk about, the Beetlejuice. Now, whether or not this weapon was buffed or nerfed is a bit of a question in itself. Now, for those who are unfamiliar with this weapon, this is the Araxian Reward LMG for the Vanu Sovereignty that is, in a nutshell, an Orion that instead of having a standard magazine, sports a heat mechanic that cools the weapon down passively over time while not being fired. If you fire 50 rounds sequentially, the weapon will overheat, and you will incur a reload penalty that the player must go through. Now, the main changes that were made to the weapon are as per follows. Its cooldown rate was halved from 240 heat per second to 200 heat per second, which means that it now cools an effective 10 rounds per second as opposed to 12.5 rounds per second. And when overheated, it now sports a reload animation that the player must complete before it can be fired again. Now, I'm going to admit, the cooldown nerf it received is pretty minimal at best. It doesn't really feel that impactful in the grand scheme of things, and while I did find myself edging closer and closer to the overheat a couple more times than I normally would, I'm still not sure the core of what I would consider the problem to be with this weapon has been fixed yet per se. As I said before in my last Beetlejuice review video, the key issue for me with this weapon is its ability to cool down while it's holstered. I have absolutely no issue with the weapon cooling down passively between engagements while it's in your hands, because that's its shtick, right? If you can keep engagements on your terms and in your favor, then you can turn this thing into a truly awesome weapon, a true crop duster, if you will. And the kinds of players that can do that are going to be the ones using the weapon, and I'm all for that style of play being rewarded. But there is at the same time no other weapon in the game that allows you to, say, fire half your magazine downrange, see a max suit, whack out your rocket launcher to fire at said max suit, only to have your primary weapon fully reloaded, ready to go again. The same applies to when you die with the Beetlejuice and then get revived seconds later. The Beetlejuice will just be, smiling and ready to thrash the non-believers as if you didn't just pump 45 rounds downrange before you died. Being completely honest, the whole being able to die after burning a whole mag and then get up with a fresh one is what bothers me the most about this weapon, but I digress. The more interesting change here was the forced reload if you overheat the weapon. Funnily enough though, this new animation clocks in faster than what the old overheat penalty was on the gun before the nerf. It used to clock in at around about 7.44 seconds when you took into consideration the cooldown penalty and the cooldown before you could fire again. But now, if I'm not mistaken, it appears to take approximately 3.6 seconds to reload the weapon after overheated. It doesn't take a mathematician to work out that that's a lot faster than what it was before. And very quickly, some started praising Lord Rel himself for buffing their favorite crop duster of a weapon. And I can see where they were coming from, because damn, it's a fast reload all things considered. It's only 0.2 of a second slower than the long reload of the Orion. But it's still a nerf to a certain extent. You can't just put the weapon away and expect it to reload itself while you're dead, or using your pistol or your launcher or whatever have you. It must go through that reload animation now before it can be used again. But the point still stands. Most people who are going to be using this weapon are going to have enough situational awareness and self-control to avoid that reload in the first place. So again, it's not the most impactful nerf in the world, and being honest, the Beetlejuice still feels just as effective as it used to post-nerf. It has seen its first example of implemented forced downtime, however, which I think is a step in the right direction for reeling this weapon in just a little bit. But anyway guys, a bit of a shorter one today, because that's going to wrap up today's video discussing the changes to the Saber-13, the NSX Daimyo, and the Beetlejuice 54A. If you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to backhand the like button. It goes a long way to supporting the channel. If you didn't, well, that dislike button works there as well. Let me know in the comments section down below if you've had a chance to use these weapons post-update and what you think of them now. Are they useful? Are they not? How have you been sitting there with them so far? As always guys, social media links including Twitch linked in the description down below. Please come check us out, it'd be great to have your company there. And as always guys, hope you have a good one. Peace out, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take care guys.